Welcome to Let's Talk Ball. I'm Thad Braun along with Carl Jones. Right here in this space every single week, we break down the X's, the O's, looking at the all 22 from every Bills game, talking Bills and Chiefs. And yes, there will be Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney conversation. We will not once, though, mention the offside call. We will get to that later. But, Carl, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. And I think you and I were both, maybe not for exactly the same reason, but we're both impressed with Joe Brady in this game.
Yeah, going up against a defensive coordinator like Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, anyone who's watched the Chiefs for probably the last 4 or 5 years, there isn't a blitz he hasn't created. Like, I mean, safeties, corners, it's honestly cool to watch when you take a step back. But I thought that going into the game, Joe Brady was like, you know what, one way to defeat the blitz, perimeter game. So a lot of screens, a lot of RPO stuff. And in the first half, they were able to move the ball down the field using that. Now, granted, Steve Spagnuolo obviously knows the weaknesses to his own defense, so he's going to be able to come back in the second half with that type of stuff. But you set up all those RPOs, set up all those screens. Gabe Davis is wide open at the end of the game. Now, obviously, that's on your quarterback to make the play. Mm-hmm. But in a game like that, heavyweight fight, first time, like, hey, young buck, you're up against a vet, one of the best in the game. What you going to do? I came away impressed with his game plan and approach.
Yeah, I thought he lost in the second half.
Right.
But I think he's supposed to lose, and he didn't get embarrassed. He hung in. He made calls. He did things that, forced the Chiefs to continue to be on their toes, including, they ran all those wide receiver screens, like you said, and then it was Gabe Davis faking the block, going downfield, getting wide open. Another one that I like that I don't think anybody talked about, first half, the Bills run that fourth down play to Dalton Kincaid, right? It's the one where Josh Allen runs play action and dances around for an hour and then makes a play. The thing I noticed on that was, a lot of those short yardage plays, the Bills will go heavy to one side. So you go center, guard, tackle, left, and then right side is guard, tackle, tight end, extra offensive lineman, tight end, right? Well, the short side, the weak side, wasn't heavily defended, as you wouldn't think. It looked like it was an easy money to run on. Well, sure enough, the next time the Bills get the ball, it's 3rd and 1 right off the bat. They go to the same formation, Joe Brady's like, okay, we're just going to run at the weak side, and they get 4 yards without even breaking a sweat. Seeing those continued adjustments and just doing the logical stuff, making the basic plays, I think has really helped this Bills offense out.
I would agree. Now, I will say in the second half, they did get a little too RPO heavy.
Yes.
Like, hey, man, just take away the PO option, the pass option. Just run the ball sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I did think they got a little too, I'm not saying too cute, but get away from the RPO stuff and let's just actually run the ball. Because when they were able to just take away the Josh Allen chance to throw the ball to the outside and just run the ball, they had some success doing that. Ty Johnson had like an 8-yard run that was cool to see. James Cook had another good game. So obviously some learning curves. Once again, going up against a defensive coordinator like Spags, you're going to take some punches and get knocked out sometimes. But I thought he got back up and was swinging.
You talk about taking the pass option out of the option. I think that largely that's because the pass really wasn't working, for a lot of different reasons. And a lot of us walked away from that game thinking, another Josh Allen masterpiece. He was great. And he had some good plays. But he also had some misses. There were short, easy throws. He wasn't taking opportunities where he probably could have taken easy money and sat around for a bigger play. Didn't quite work as well. And, like you said, not Josh's fault, but, some of those quick throws were not things that were helping the offense. But more to the point, and this is what I want to get into, the Bills receivers, a group that we have talked a lot about, not being able to win one-on-one, this right here was the nadir for that because there were multiple. I've never seen a team run so much man on the Bills. And the Chiefs won with it all day long. And this is not just, Stephon Diggs is good and everybody else wasn't. No. 14 was included in this as well.
L'Jarius Sneed, number 38 for the Chiefs. They're the number 1 cornerback. If you didn't know about him coming into this game, well, you know him now. That man erased Stephon Diggs on several snaps. Trent McDuffie, who obviously anyone who's followed the Bills over the past 2 years, the Bills wanted him a lot and weren't able to get him. He showed why on Sunday, why he's a really darn good player. It wasn't just them, though. Nick Bolton had a couple snaps where he erased some guys. Willie Gay, number 50, the linebacker, did as well. They just weren't beating man, point blank, period. I mean, some plays Stephon Diggs was bracketed, so I will say that. But Kincaid, it didn't matter if he was on McDuffie was across from him or Willie Gay. He wasn't consistently beating guys. And then obviously you're not expecting the others to win either. So, I mean, just wasn't a day where Josh Allen can just go, all right, Like, yeah. He was really struggling to find open guys throughout that game.
You hear Sean McDermott talk about the defense working in concert, where the pass rush sets up the secondary and the coverage and you create turnovers. It kind of works that way on offense too, because what's happening here is Josh Allen is seeing too many times, and this has been an all-year thing, where there are not options available to him. So what he does then is he will not sit around and wait for throws to develop. He'll drop back and even with clean pocket and say, well, I didn't know any of these guys would be open unless I run around. So he will scramble early, and you're not letting guys sometimes develop into spots where they are open. And the entire pass game, it gets into this funk where it can break down. Now look, Allen is so ridiculously good coming up with stuff on his own that you'll still move the ball at times. But this is a Bills team that had 4 first downs after the first drive of the second half. I mean, you can't live with that offensively in big games. They got away with it in this one, and we'll explain why in a little bit. But I don't want to say it's a trend, but it's something that this is not the first time we've seen it.
Nah, and look, the Chiefs' defense is, for the first time in like 5 years, actually really, really good. Like,
Yeah.
That's not like even a good defense.
And that's a part of this, too. It's not all on the Bills. That defense is awesome.
Right, like Snead and McDuffie, that's one of the better cornerback duos that the Bills will see all year. And if I'm off the top of my head in the AFC, maybe the Browns and Jets are the only two that will put above them. Like,
Right.
That's how darn good that secondary is. But those are some of the teams that you're going to see in the postseason. Well, not the Jets, but like you're going to see better defenses as the year goes on. You would like to start winning. It's December 12th at this point.
I think we've established where the Bills are as a receiver group. If you can scheme them open or if 17 can make it up on his own, it works. But there's too much in-structure offense that is not succeeding with his team, and you saw a little bit more of that again against a really good defense. Quick hitter on offense for me, I thought Osiris Torrance had a really good game, and we've been knocking him in this space for weeks now. He was very solid, a couple of really smart run blocks. He was competent against the pass, which is all you want from your guard spot. And, you know, a rookie that I've liked all year, although I think his play has kind of sagged a little bit midseason, really had a bounce-back game in this one.
Player for me, James Cook. I know we talked about some certain guys, well, not certain guys, all the guys not getting separation. James Cook wasn't one of those guys. He was able to win his matchup against, I believe one rep was against Willie Gay on like a little out route.
Yeah.
The wheel route up the sideline, although that wasn't really.
That was Bolton, I think. I know.
Bolton.
The wheel route was one I thought they schemed up nice.
Oh, yeah, well,
yeah.
on broadcast, it's funny, anyone who's want to go watch that, on broadcast, you can literally see Josh Allen say, run a wheel, and then James goes and then runs the wheel. So that's actually funny how that one turned out. But regardless, James Cook had another solid game out of the backfield, 83 receiving yards. That's the guy that they wanted to draft out of Georgia, and that was a game that showed you why they took him in the second round.
Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Bills gave up 17 points. That's good. Bills got off the field end of the game, won a game. That's good. I don't know if there was much else good. I was surprised at how much I was not impressed by this defensive performance against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, like when you watch it live, you're like, oh, I mean, I know they're the Chiefs, but I mean, 17 points, that's a great game. And I know I've hammered this defense saying they're not that great. I think they're an average unit. They did get 2 takeaways. The Christian Benford punch was beautiful. Same thing with A.J. Epinesa getting his hand on the ball. But outside of those plays, they really didn't create enough negative plays for me to be like, that was a great performance, you know. A Chiefs offense that has been anemic, to say the least, over the past month or so, moved the ball a little too consistently for my liking, especially once they got into a little bit of a rhythm, what they like to do. I believe that was, the second to last drive of the first half where they started to move the ball down the field a bit. They just never really got them uncomfortable, which isn't good to see with a Chiefs receiving core that is obviously undisciplined, as you saw with the Tony penalty. Can't get open, and then a bunch of guys who can't catch the ball either. So that wasn't good to see. I mean, Patrick Mahomes still threw for 270. Like, they just stalled out in the red zone or in the plus territory too many times. So, look, I give them their credit for taking the ball away and creating enough negative plays. But this isn't a unit where I'm like, oh, man, like they played excellent and took it to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it was one of those games for me.
You talked about before we started recording, the Chiefs out-Bills the Bills because this is the Bills offense we talked about. They're fine, but then they knock themselves down with mistakes. Well, in this game, penalties, the Tony thing at the end of the game, but drops too. You know, you were saying that the Chiefs didn't get into a rhythm until late in the first half. I mean, the first drive of the game, they marched right down to the 30-yard line, and then A.J. Epinesa makes the great interception. There was another series, you know, where they got inside Bills territory. Kadarius Toney drops one on the sideline, and then MVS is open, and it wasn't a drop, but you know, he and Patrick Mahomes are not on the same page. You wonder how that can happen, you know, with as long as MVS has been there. That said, we've seen Gabe Davis never on the same page with Josh Allen, so I guess we can understand how it can happen. Bottom line is, though, a lot of these things the Chiefs did to themselves to stop these drives, not necessarily the Bills making a play.
I mean, Chiefs fans, I think they've been saying that all year. Like, oh, man, it's our fault, it's our fault. Well, I mean, after a while, I think it's just who you guys are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once again, I think that was more of the Chiefs' own doing as opposed to what the Bills were doing to them throughout that game.
You liked Rasul Douglas in this game. He did get the Travis Kelce assignment on a few occasions, but I think it was smart. He's one of the few size coverage guys you got. You thought he played pretty well.
physical. You're not going to ever beat him with a guy unless you have like a Derwin James type who like literally can match his size.
Beat Kelsey, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that he said, you know what, if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose swinging. So, I mean, there were some times at the line of scrimmage where he's like, we're both holding on, and hopefully I'm holding on long enough where Patrick Mahomes looks somewhere else. Like, it was just one of those type of reps. Obviously, the one rep against Rashee Rice earlier in the game where he almost jumps in and gets the pick, that was beautiful technique in that as well. So I thought mainly in the first half, because after that, he really wasn't a part of too many plays. But in that first half, Rasul Douglas set the tone saying, hey, y'all come at me, y'all better come correct.
We'll move it from the back end towards the line of scrimmage. I think Terrell Dodson might be the best linebacker in the Bills right now. He continues to make plays. There was that ridiculous second quarter run stop where he's getting held, gets spun around, makes a tackle for a loss with his back. He continues. He had a blitz earlier in the game. Now, he came in free. But look, when you come in free, you got to make those count. And he did. Forced an incomplete pass with Patrick Mahomes. You know, like, he's not an elite all-around linebacker. There are just limitations. But again, for what he brings to the table, the Bills are getting more out of him than they're getting out of Terrell Bernard or anyone else in that linebacking core right now. Doesn't mean Bernard's terrible. He's not. I think Bernard's fine-ish. But Dotson's been better, and Dotson continues to improve, I think, as this season goes along. We've talked a lot in this space about the lack of dudes at the end of the games when it comes to this defense, not being able to finish. And yes, the Bills got a ridiculous break with Kadarius Toney lining up off sides. But that only was second down. The Chiefs still had 3 more plays to move the ball down the field, and on all 3 of those plays, they had receivers wide open deep. You know, if there's no pass rush at all, the Chiefs might have scored on one of those 3 plays. But this time the Bills' dude stepped up.
Von Miller, I believe, on that second down, Ed Oliver gets his hand, shoulder pad or hand, I believe, on that third down play. And then on the fourth down, they collapsed Mahomes enough where he had to get rid of it earlier, where him and Kelsey didn't get out of the route in time. So I think at the end of games, we've always said players over dudes when it comes to that crunch time situation. I don't care what play you draw up. If the dude across from you is just better than you, that's how the matchup is going to work out. And for the first time all year, the Bills defense, their dudes won the matchup in front. Ed Oliver, if you can't get to the quarterback, get your hands up. That's great. And then Von Miller sighting. Wow. At the end of the game.
I will say the last one was Leonard Floyd, which was a very crafty rush. He kind of slow played it and then attacked late. And you're right. He got there in enough time to prevent Patrick Mahomes from throwing comfortably. With Von Miller, I think the gradual improvement continues, but it's both words. It's improvement and gradual. I watched every snap he had in this game, and it's a little better. I mean, again, he made a play when it mattered, which I'll tell you what, if the Bills get one of those every week out of Von Miller, they'd probably take it at this point. But I this is after a bye week now. You know, there's no more weeks off for the Bills. They are going to play every single week until they either win a Super Bowl, or I guess AFC Championship, or are eliminated. So if Von Miller is not making a big jump after a bye, I just don't think it's coming this year. I think this is maybe slightly better. This is the guy we're going to see the rest of the year.
I said the same thing to you. I don't think I said it in this space where, like, this December area was around the time where I would expect Von to be back. And if he's not back to where he was before, then this is the guy we're going to get, and that's what you said. So, hey, if they can get that one play a game, I'm sure they'll take it. But obviously when they paid him 9 figures, I'm sure they want a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and I wonder – I was thinking for the last few weeks that Von Miller developing back into Von Miller was the piece that to me could make this Bills team a legit Super Bowl contender again. Now, the AFC is such a chaos pit right now that there might be 8 or 9 teams you can make a Super Bowl argument for, and the Bills are certainly among those. But if they don't have that elite guy as a pass rusher, what do they have right now? I mean, I'm talking top to bottom right now. You got 17, who's ridiculous, and you got Stephon Diggs, who might have taken a little step back last few weeks, but he's still one of the top 10 receivers in the game. You've got a running game that can beat soft boxes, and a running back in James Cook that can do some things, but it's not like this is Austin Eckler or anything like that. Offensive line is good, not great. Defensively, Ed Oliver, Leonard Floyd are somewhere between B+, A-. Your secondary is guys, Rasul Douglas is fine, kind of a B+ corner. Your safeties are getting older and maybe being stretched further than you want. And your linebackers are, 2 guys you probably didn't want playing there. Well, Terrell Bernard is the starter. But neither one of them are playing at a level that you're going to get blown away by. How does that team go to a Super Bowl?
I mean, the only way is because the path in front of them isn't that great, like you just alluded to. I mean, you look around the AFC, the Ravens are once again hurt. If you didn't know that, the Ravens are always hurt every single year. Then the Chiefs, they just beat a team that can't get out of their own way. The Jaguars just lost to Joe Flacco. Like, the AFC is just rough right now. So, I mean, look, the way I've been looking at this, the Bills defense at this point, if you can get C+ out of them, B-, you'll take it every single week. You're going to need 17 to go nuclear, which he's shown he can do.
Did against the Eagles.
So you're just unfortunately gonna need that week in and week out.
Yeah, and maybe not every single week, but between now and January, enough weeks.
Oh, I mean, if they were to make the playoffs, they would need him to go nuclear.
To make the playoffs, or
Once they get into the dance,
I agree with that.
He needs to go nuclear.
Right, you're gonna need, the Bills are gonna have to win 3 games, but they ain't getting the #1 seed. So those 3 playoff wins, I think the path would be 2 nuclear Josh games and 1 other game where you just get everything to bounce you away. And look, this Chiefs game was kind of that. I mean, both fumbles in the game, the Bills recovered. Remember, Latavius Murray, that catch, that fumble turns into Chiefs ball. It's 1st and 10 for them in Bills territory, and maybe they take the lead late. The A.J. Epinesa, great play. But a ball that gets batted up in the air can land anywhere. The fact that it was in his arms probably saved the Bills 3 points. And then the Kadarius Toney play at the end of the game. They got all those things to go their way and still were fighting off Pat Mahomes with the ball at midfield. So doesn't mean that the Bills are terrible and they didn't deserve the win, but it's going to be that type of game plus 2 nuclear Josh games, I think, to get them to the Super Bowl.
I would agree with that.
All right, next week the Bills take on the Cowboys. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Quick preview. What's the #1 matchup you're kind of looking at for this game?
Taron Johnson versus CeeDee Lamb. If anyone who's watched the Cowboys over the past like 6 or 7 games, CeeDee Lamb, and most CeeDee Lamb. I ain't watched Michael Irvin when he was alive, but that's how they trying to feed him every single play, all right? And then same 88 jersey and all that good type of stuff. It's going to be fireworks from the Cowboys offense. CeeDee Lamb lines up in the slot as the receiver for the Cowboys. Taron Johnson's matchup, he's going to have to win that if they have any chance to slow them down.
I think the Cowboys are a really tough matchup for the Bills, but you know what? They're a tough matchup for everybody. We will talk about that game right here next week. Remember, you can see Let's Talk Ball every single week at RochesterFirst.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find your podcast. For Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks for watching and listening this week. We'll talk to you next week with Dallas Cowboys and the Bills.